You all with us. My name is Pavlo Phitidis. We are going to get right into the hour that we have together today. I will ensure that you get really good value from it. I really am very, very delighted to have you with us. So very briefly, I'm one of the co-founders of Aurik. I do a little bit of speaking. I invest quite actively in the SME space, but mostly I'm going to be talking about what building a business into an asset of value is all about. Very briefly, a 30-second pitch on Aurik, who we are. We set ourselves out to solve a problem. And the problem was that 94% of businesses started failed to sell. And I'm not talking about startups. I'm talking about businesses that are 10, 15, 20 years into the run. Businesses that have done well, certainly done well, for their proprietors, for their owners, for their shareholders, but fail on the final exit. To solve the problem, we started, built and sold 12 businesses. It gave a good return, but that's not what was exciting. The most exciting thing about the return that we got is when we did the evaluation of the portfolio of businesses, we noticed that the last handful took half the time and more or less a third to 40% of the investment to build to the same value as the first handful. And in that, the penny dropped. We understood a methodology, a very specific approach that we consolidated into a growth system, which we now customize right across our SME clients. We've had the benefit, the privilege, the honor of having worked with over 2,700 SMEs. And the most exciting, consistent result that we've managed to generate, despite COVID and despite everything that's happened, is that on average, we secure a 20.8% average compound growth rate across our clients. We provide growth support, we provide funding support. We operate in the United Kingdom, we operate in South Africa. There's certain benefits to that, incidentally. And the benefits are that in the South African environment, we've had to achieve those growth rates in a regressive economy, shoddily run, horribly operated, politically confusing, like most of the world today, and with very unreliable power supply. So perhaps it really sets us up for a future world because it seems that everything's moving in that direction. To make good use of time, the most precious, precious commodity in the world, I'm going to be sharing with you a 2-minute analogy. Analogies are powerful because they help you separate yourself from your own set of circumstances. And one of the toughest things to get right when you're building, running, growing, designing a business, when you want to accelerate, when you want to grow, when you want to figure a way forward, is to gain perspective, gain a position outside of your own mind, your own drama, your own emotion, your own imagery. So the analogy I'll share with you will be very brief. It'll be surprising to some of you know it. And then I'll talk to the 5 growth impediments that prevent us attaining the 5.4% globally of SMEs that are started, built, and successfully sold. The tone and the tempo is going to be quick. It's going to be pacey. There's a lot of active chat I'm going to be looking for. Please introduce yourself on the chat lines. If you recognize any faces over here, engage, say hello, let people know what you do. Absolutely welcome to share your LinkedIn profiles. There's a lot of benefit to sharing, networking, and engaging. A lot of the questions I'm going to be asking, I'm going to be looking to the chat for your views. I would so appreciate if everyone switched their camera on. The big benefit, of course, of COVID, if there is one, is it's created profound efficiency in the ability to have meetings. Zoom has been a key instrument in enabling that. But what's not great is that when you look to address an audience, when you look to engage, when you look to have a meeting, and we deliberately set this up as a meeting, it's really not great when you can't see who you're talking to. And I don't know what you folks have found, but whenever we speak to corporate entities, they're largely operating off a Microsoft Teams platform, and everyone has their cameras off. And there's this version of a staccato communication, which is just soul destroying. Most of us, because we live, eat, and breathe our businesses and have everything to lose and everything to gain in this current economy, are people with strong, firm views, with emotion, with texture, with substance. We are tactile people. It would be wonderful if you switched your cameras on. I would so appreciate it. Moving straight on, the analogy I promised. And yes, I'm going to say it again. Julian's heard it, not once, not twice. Johan certainly heard it, not 20, not 30 times. Building a business is like sailing a ship. There are certain things that are common to both. The most important aspect of sailing a ship safely and successfully is to be sure where you are sailing to. When you set sail from the confines of a harbor and off you go, unless you're absolutely crystal clear around what your destination is, you can't resource your journey sufficiently and you can't navigate your way to that end point. I argue that there are only two destinations for every business in the world. We'll get into that on the next slide. The next thing is for a ship to sail successfully and safely, you need a crew. And the wonderful thing about a ship's crew is that the crew's made up of the right people doing the right thing at the right time. Because if you don't, all sorts of things can go wrong. And then the final 2 points that I like to use in this analogy, they're two dominant areas of a ship. Below decks, below the plinth line, where there are no windows, underwater, acting as a ballast, but mostly there to propel the ship, you have the engine room. Big diesel engines chunking away, turning the propeller, whose sole function is to give you momentum. Then you have an option to be on the bridge. The bridge has a 360-degree view. It has instrumentation. It's where navigation takes place. There is an espresso machine if the ship is well built, which is far more comfortable than being in the engine room. But mostly the function of the bridge is to get you to that destination in the safest, most efficient way. So hold on to those 4 ideas. Reflect on them in the context of your own business, and let's begin. What is your destination? Where are you going in the next 36 to 60 months? Please share your views. Share them on the chat. Some of you I've spoken to, I've got a very good sense. Douglas is going to become the favored. He's laughing already. You're going to become the beauty, I was about to say queen, Douglas, but the beauty king of Southeast Asia when you get your model juiced up, operating and working. Johan, who I also see on the screen over there, I've got a very good sense of what you're intending to do. Operating out of Phoenix, Arizona in the next 2 years or so, you're going to be stretching right across the globe with, let's call it, customized technology services. Who else I recognize over here that has got, the espresso machine is very, very important. I completely agree, Johan, absolutely critical. What are you looking to achieve in the next 36 to 60 months? It is your destination. Where are you going? It might be, in your instance, the next 120 months. I certainly hope so, Leo, given the fact that you've got age on your side. You need to have far longer goals and far more aspirant goals. Sparrow, I see you there as well. What are you looking to achieve in the next 36 to 60 months? Getting out of delivery and into growth. That's a good place to be. From Phil, need to work it out, but debt-free businesses with value. Yeah, I could not agree more. It's about getting that value in. There are 2 strategies, incidentally, Phil, to bake value into your business. We're going to get to them in about 15 minutes from now. So I'll give you the secrets that I've certainly witnessed and seen work, what worked and what didn't work. Tom, less time with the engine. Oh, come on, Tom, don't you like hauling coal day in and day out? You know, it builds muscle, gets rid of body fat, keeps you fit, keeps you active. Guy, keep building maturity. Maturity. Okay, process and structure. Well, that certainly does. In many ways, in fact, that's quite a good position, Guy, because the process and structure and maturity, if you're going to relate it back to age, is no different to building denser bones and firmer muscles to carry the heavier weight as you grow. JT scale, I love that word. You know, that word is so misunderstood. And I'll talk to it very, very technically, because the technical explanation behind it is quite interesting. And it's often something that, you know, people in the media throw the word scale around, but seldom do they actually really dig into what it means. Jody, you want to go into new markets with less time problem solving. Okay, I like that one. I like that one because in many ways, we create our own problems. There are those problems that are imposed upon us, and then those problems that we deliberately create. COVID is an imposed problem, but there are a lot of imposed problems that we have created ourselves. Spiro, you're not in a corner cafe. James, don't you like chaos? People say out of chaos there's opportunity. Okay, we've got quite a few ideas over here. I will cover all of them. I will cover all of them. That's my promise. From an Aurik perspective, we believe, well, we know for a fact, it's one of the absolute truths. Here's an absolute truth, you're born. Another absolute truth is you will die one day, hopefully far later than anticipated. No, Nick, don't look forward to it like that. We need you. We need you still for a good 30, 40, 50 years. Okay, good. Are we on for 50 years? We have a deal. Fantastic. There are only two destinations for a business. Absolute fact, two destinations. Either a closure or a sale. An exit, a clean exit, a profitable exit, not a hospital pass exit. I will talk a little later to what led to me acquiring two businesses for $1 a piece. I'll talk you through the negotiation process in terms of how the price got to that level. But from an Aurik perspective, we believe the only destination you should be sailing to is what we refer to as an asset of value. Let's just pause for a minute on the word asset. And let's use a really good analogy. I'm going to buy some shares on the stock exchange. I'm going to pay £50 for the shares. What do I want? Over a period of time, 3 years down the line, I would like to sell the shares for £100 and enjoy the capital gain of £50. At the same time, if I could get £10 of dividends, year 1, year 2, year 3, that's my income growth. But what makes that share tradable? What makes the share tradable, wearing the hat of a business owner, an investor, is that it needs to be independent of me. If I am the cause of the capital growth and I'm the cause of the income growth, I don't have an asset, because the third element, the third feature, independence, is not there. From an Aurik perspective, we define an asset of value as having 5 features to it. And this should be the case with all of our businesses. The first is you need to have a brand. You need to be positioned in a highly competitive marketplace. What do you stand for? The next thing is that the business should be driven by systems, what we refer to as a system of delivery. The third thing is you need a purposeful team. And then the fourth thing is you need to have growth baked into the business. If you have those 4 elements in play, you have the opportunity to secure a successful exit. I'm going to talk to each of those now. So, what makes your business special in the eyes of your customers? What makes it special? Spiro, what makes your business special in the eyes of your customers? We're going to run a small poll on this. I'm very interested to see what the results are. How do you see your business? More importantly, how do your customers see your business? Riti, what makes your business special in the eyes of your customers? So we've got price, we've got product and services, your service, important, relationships, quality. Oh, there's no other. There's no other. Come, don't be shy. Take a view, take a guess. take a bet. In the eyes of your customers, what makes your business special? So if we look at that, if we look at the outcome of that, we are saying products and service features. 32% believe product and service features make your business special in the eyes of your customers. Relationships, 32%. Relationships are enormously valuable, critical, especially in the early stages of the business. If you look at this ship on the screen, does anyone know anything about ships in history? This ship sailed for the first time in, I think, 1817. It was the first ship to take Dutch people to the United States of America. And what they believe set them apart, because it was a competitive, very, very competitive transit route. What they believe set them apart was the figurehead on the ship. And on the figurehead of the ship, we see a lion. The lion has a number of features to it. It's bold, it's brave, it fears nothing. What they were selling to their passengers was the new world. It's bold, it's brave, it's opportunity. You need to be fierce, you need to attack it, you need to take it. We're going to sail across tempestuous seas. We're going to land in an unknown country. We're going to craft a new life, far better than the one we have. That figurehead was very, very symbolic. They believed, the captain of the ship believed, it's what set his journey and his ship apart to all the competing ships that used to take sailors and passengers across to the United States. When we talk about products and features, when we talk about service, when we talk about relationships, I am going to throw the cat amongst the pigeons. Brand positioning is not about products, and it's not about features, and it's not really about personal relationships, and it's not even really about service. The fact of the matter is that we live and exist in a highly competitive world. Everything is contested. There's not one client you have that is not being dated, swooned, wooed, challenged by a whole range of competitors. And despite the fact that all walls are coming up along trade, at the same time, there's a massive increase in digitization globally. And that means that our customers are going to be challenged even more aggressively from competitors that we don't even know exist. It is a tough place and space to be. In the UK alone, there are over 12 million .uk websites. That excludes the .coms, it excludes the .orgs, it excludes the .ios. But within that space, when you look at your ship in amongst that morass out there, standing out from the crowd has become singularly the biggest challenge that all business owners face. Here's the history around how brand emerges. This young man told us in 1771, a founding father in the United States, Ralph Waldo Emerson, he said, build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door. And Phil, you know what? He was right. Because in 1771, how many products existed? Yeah, a couple of horses, a couple of saddles, maybe some gas lights, picks, shovels. They were digging for gold. Clothing in 3 colors, beige, brown, and gray. That was it. Not many products. Anyone who came up with a product was already streets ahead. Somebody took that on board in 1922, and he decided to get the product made cheaply. Because the products were winning, the next big challenge was price. That's what then set people apart as more and more products entered into the world. His name was Henry Ford, and he was famous for having said, you can have any Model T Ford you want for so long as it is. Let's see who knows the answer. Whoever gets the answer right, Nick Rickson will be offering them £10. Well done, Tom. Nick Rickson, if you could please just share your bank account details, Tom, with Nick. He will deposit £10 for having won that quiz. Absolutely black. It was all about product. It was all about price. Price was the big advantage in the early 1900s. And then a smart guy came along called Philip Kotler. And he turned around in the 60s and he said, no. Everyone has products. Everyone has price advantages. The next big front of competition is about marketing. And for you to get that right, you need to know what your segments are. So I'm guessing all of us on the screen are SMEs. That's certainly how your bank sees you. Josh, not sure what size you are, but I'm betting you that you are somewhere between and 30 million pounds a year of annual revenues. If I'm right, give me a thumbs up or let me know. Because if that's the case, mate, you are an SME in the eyes of the bank. Robin, you're an SME. Jody, you're an SME. Spiro, you're an SME. We're all SMEs. We're one big globular mass in a segment called SMEs. And yet how many feel that the banks really get them? Let's just have a quick show of hands. Who feels that your bank really understands you? I don't see any thumbs up anywhere. So much for that form of marketing, but in the 60s it was revolutionary. We get taught this in business school. We get taught this in books. So we all build our businesses to get product features as an advantage, price as an advantage, and we get our marketing right by aiming at segments. What we from an Aurik point of view have seen is that this has fundamentally changed. Because what's winning today is a business that locates itself around solving problems. This individual has a number of problems besides his hair. He's created a number of his own problems. But if you understand who you serve in relation to the problem you solve for them, and the way to test that, incidentally, is to be able to define the problem you solve for your clients and quantify it. If you can't put a price to the problem they have, how do you know the value of your solution? Because surely value equals their problem, your cost of solution, the difference between the two. The greater the value, the more encouraging people will be of your solution. And that's where it ended. Certainly about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, the edge of competition in a very crowded, noisy space was really warranted and favored towards those businesses that interpreted their customers in terms of the problems they solve for them. In the last 3-4 years, that too's fallen away because the edge of competition today is being won through experiences. The experience of how I want you as my supplier or service provider, be I a consumer or a business, the experience in terms of how you market to me, how you engage me, and how you solve my problem is of absolute essence to me. Does anybody recognize this lady on the screen? Here's absolute. I see, Leo, I see you nodding your head. I see you nodding your head. Who is she?
She does the impeccable Trump lip dubs.
Yeah, so she solved a problem for many, many people in the world who found Trump hard to watch, hard to listen to. Anyone doing business anywhere needs to understand what American policy is doing because it has an impact on all of us. Certainly our clients in the United States hold on to every word because President Trump seems to design economic strategy on whim. It becomes very, very hard to tolerate. When she started impersonating Trump, she had a following on Twitter of 10,000 followers. And what she did is she identified that there was an audience struggling to listen to Trump, but needing to follow what he was saying. And she thought she would create a great experience for them.
We hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light. And I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number in the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
There we go. She created an experience that solved a problem. We worked with a watch retailer not so long ago who thought he was in the product category of selling. In fact, when he realized he was involved in selling investments, it's what took his business to a 24.6% average annual compound growth from 2009, a year into the credit crunch, for 3 years consistently thereafter. If I talk about the business-to-business industrial space, we worked with a 54-year-old baker who came on board with a £5.2 million annual revenue, and was attempting to sell croissants to everyone and everything. When he narrowed it down into the hospitality industry and realized that not only was he solving a problem in the hospitality industry, but in the business-to-business space, there are multiple buyers who make up the purchase decision. When that experience was understood, it's taken him to just under £50 million a year in 10 short years. In the professional services space, Julian, you'd be interested in this. A legal firm that was attempting to provide contracts anytime, anywhere, for everyone, everywhere, eventually got to a place where they decided to narrow their segment, focus exclusively on a divorce practice, and through that understood the experience as to when a divorce emerges, how to manage it, and how to communicate to resolve settlements. They found themselves in an instance where they're now growing at more or less around 38.2% on an average annual compound growth rate. Your ability to position your business is without a doubt, I think, the hardest thing to get right, because most of us understand the products we offer, understand the service we deliver. It plays to our core strength, but it's not necessarily what resolves and finds value in the lived experience of customers and clients who are being competed with on an extremely aggressive basis everywhere. Once we get that right, once we've understood how to position ourselves, we know who we serve. There might be 1, 2, 3, 4 segments. Yvonne, in the discussions we've had, there are about 4 or 5 segments. We understand what experience they want in order to favor us and see us as valuable. What we now need to do is articulate the delivery of that experience in an absolutely predictable, consistent way. We call that building a system of delivery. And a system of delivery is made up of a series of cogs that turn and connect together to drive propulsion in the business. It is the engine room of your business. It includes marketing to generate leads from the segments you're serving. It includes sales to convert those leads into customers. It includes operations to fulfill your obligations to the leads. It includes administration, which governs the relationship with those leads. If you see each of those functions as cogs working together, they articulate and deliver your positioning on a consistent, reliable basis. There are about 186 systems that make up a system of delivery, and each of them has the following elements. Every system is made up of activities, which are placed into a sequence that can be measured. So for example, if you're using marketing to reach your customers and clients from an email perspective, the construction of the email has 4 or 5 activities. They're placed in a sequence, and you should be able to measure. I send out 50 emails, I get how many replies. Importantly, every system needs to be teachable. You need to understand the job description in order to support recruitment for the delivery and performance of that system. And you need to design a remuneration structure that understands the cost of the system, the cost of the operator, and that gives you good value. In many ways, when we get this right, it's no different to the engine room. This is pure engine room work. You've got your cogs all turning. When they reach each other, when they touch each other, when they coordinate and effectively integrate with each other, they create the experience that drives that propeller. You have momentum in your business. If you reflect on your business and you look at your business, how many of you ever experienced that? There's Charlie Chapman. He was very happily operating on the bridge, and then he kept on getting sucked down into the engine room. He had to fix one cog or another cog. I'm going to run a quick poll to get a sense. Which is the cog that fails you most frequently? Which is the one that constantly pulls you into the daily?
Pablo, we can't hear you. If you could just check your sound, please.
Sorry, I have a very interesting piece of technology here called Adele that keeps on doing this to me. So which is the cog that keeps on pulling you into the engine room? Is it marketing to generate leads? Sales? Is it the conversion side? Conversions have taken longer. We're getting used to screen selling. We had better get used to screen selling because by the looks of it, we're going to have it on for a while longer. Is it operations? Every time you get a deal, do things fall apart? Is there chaos in the engine room? Do you have to constantly tell everyone all the time to do everything all the time? How do you get that delivery done to marry and match the experience that you promised in marketing? So if we look at it, wow, there's quite a few different versions over here. Which cog works best in your organization? So marketing to generate leads is working best for 38% of you. That's quite a feat. I have to tell you, that's quite a feat. In a very, very crowded, noisy space, it's quite a feat. Operations working well. Sales struggling a little bit. Procurement and buying struggling a little bit. It'll be interesting to see what the impacts of Brexit finally are. The friction on the border, the selling and buying process. It's going to bear down on all of us. Which cogs need attention? Oh my word. We're more or less a third. The three fundamental cogs of every business: generating leads, converting leads, fulfilling leads. If we don't get the cogs right, we remain in the engine rooms of our ships. If we get the cogs right, and we can get them to mostly work in an organized, coordinated way, where each one in its own right is optimized, and then they're well integrated, as indicated by the fact that each of them, as they generate their performance, are measurable, and as they work together, create measured outcomes. Remember, no different. You're on the bridge of your ship, you have instrumentation in front of you. You can see which parts of the ship are working effectively and which parts aren't. If you can't measure them, well, then you're going to be managing them with a spanner in hand. The third element of an asset of value. So we've got positioning right. Who do you serve? Defined as a problem and an experience. We've created a system of delivery to articulate that positioning and give us consistency and reliability. And now we need a team of people to bring it to life. Who is your dream employee? If each of you could have an employee appear out of the ether that could resolve and solve a problem for you right now in your business, what is it that you would want to have lifted off your shoulders? Who is that dream employee? Is it someone specifically in sales? Operations? Never as classy, Rich. You're looking for a classy employee. Who's that dream employee? Spiro, who do you want? Send it to me on chat. I'm interested. Operations. Samala, you're looking for someone to do operations. JT, a marketing strategist. Not quite sure what a marketing strategist is, but I'm guessing the function over there is effectively to generate leads, the right leads, on-point leads. Sales and marketing, agreed. Marketing and sales, sales. Doug, a financial engineer. Marketing from Ben, Stacy, and MD. Yeah. You know, the MD is the person who basically stretches right across all the elements and takes some of that pressure off. Leads and conversion. Phil, it's become without a doubt the biggest challenge in business today, without a doubt. The world of marketing is in very, very serious crisis. And Spiro, I'm sure you would agree. You know, TV's fragmented, radio's fragmented. The number of print deaths over this COVID period has dramatically concentrated the media landscape. Where do we reach our clients? How do we communicate to our clients? An operations director. Yeah, Sandy, that is the dream. Someone who can just hold everything together and be absolutely, absolutely the safe pair of hands. Technology and sales staffing business. The sales practice is the busiest by far, closely followed by data. I agree with you, Danny. Everyone's looking for sales in some shape or form. Really hard to get right if you don't understand what your positioning is. You know, in many cases, a lot of the marketing agencies I've spoken to that we have as clients have turned around and said, our biggest challenge is we understand how to generate leads. We understand how to leverage the platforms. We understand the algorithms. We understand search engine optimization. We understand the changes coming through in Facebook, in Twitter, in LinkedIn. We understand how to leverage Google. We understand TikTok. We understand Snapchat. But the problem is, when we sit with our clients and we talk to our clients, they're talking to us about product features. They're talking to us about price advantages. They're talking to us about the service they have to offer. And that doesn't translate and articulate well into targeted marketing for a pay-per-click basis. It's a massive challenge. What makes you special remains the single biggest challenge. If you get the right team, how do we define it? In an aspect of value, the right team really is made up of the right people doing the right thing at the right time at the right price. Fundamentally, we don't believe in creating jobs. We believe in creating system operator positions. If you've understood your positioning, it's well articulated, and you've got the cogs working well to articulate and deliver that positioning, effectively what you're looking for are people to operate those cogs masterfully and to constantly improve them. What it does mean is it puts you in a position where you can understand who is succeeding, who's not, where are the areas of improvement for your team members to take on a role in the business and create that consistent, reliable, predictable engine where your systems are operating to deliver on your positioning and your team members, your crew, understand what they need to do, how they need to do, and where they need to do it. We have consistently found that this supports dramatically recruitment, because mostly when we recruit, what do we receive? We receive a CV. And who here has developed the art of crystallizing who sits behind that CV? Most of the CVs, we've employed 18 people this year. Every single CV, I promise you, I don't know why those individuals applied for work at Aurik, because they have skill sets and talents that should see them build a base station in Mars. They're remarkable people. All the bullet points, quantifying their skills, their talents, their abilities. Incredibly hard to perceive a CV and understand who sits behind it. But in the instance where you have systems in play, activities in a sequence that can be measured and that can be taught, when I employ you, I discard your CV, and Guy, I have a conversation with you around the activity sets to see if you can perform those activity sets, dramatically improves the ability to find the right person. When they come on board, to get you up to speed very quickly, if you are coming on board, Tom, with a view to operate a system, and that system is well defined, it's about me capacitating you on the activities in that sequence to operate that system. And then once you're on board, Leo, if you're well suited to that system, what we have consistently found is you perform well at that system. And this is a funny thing about people, because when you perform well at something, you build your confidence. And as your confidence builds, you gain more interest in what you're doing. And as you gain more interest in what you're doing, you find meaning in what you're doing too. And it creates this virtuous cycle. One of our clients, a tech business, brilliant, gifted salesperson, launched some bleeding edge technology into the marketplace about 7 years ago. He was the only individual who could sell it. He then brought on 3 sales professionals, people with long legacy and huge talent and proven track records in his sector, in his industry. The 3 of them did not last for more than 18 months in sequence. His cost of recruitment had gone through the floor, and there were broken relationships the whole way through. When we started to work with him, the first thing that one of our team members did was go and speak to those 3 former employees to understand exactly what he had employed them for. To this day, they remain perplexed as to what the job description was. It was one of these broad job descriptions: sell, hit targets. When they came on board, there was absolutely no system for them to follow. There was no training for them to get capacitated. There was no measure for him and them to understand whether it was working or not. Solving that small problem alone is the difference between 1.2 to almost, or just over £3.5 million of revenue growth in a short 2-year period. The right people doing the right thing at the right time. Impossible to get unless you understand what systems they're going to be operating. Impossible to get value out of unless those systems correlate to articulate the positioning that sets your business apart. Can we just pause for a minute and talk about time? Most precious thing in the world. Most precious thing in the world. Because time isn't given to you. Most of us are spending time on our businesses. I want to talk about how you invest your time on your business. If I give you a formula, let's see what this is worth. In fact, I'm going to run an auction. Okay, I'm watching the chat. If I give you a formula to manufacture time, what would it be worth to you? In pounds, please. Or should we make it dollars? I'm not sure what the pound's doing. What would it be worth to you if you could have more time? More time to step back, think about your business, and do the things that you think would make the world of difference to the value of your business. Priceless here. Now, let's put a quantum down, because I need to feel and see the money. I need to taste and test it. It needs to be, okay, so Rita, you in. Mr. Rickson, you in. 3.25 million, you in. Okay, Nick, so you and I will have a discussion afterwards, because you've definitely won this auction. I'm going to skip the next slide, which gives the formula away. Guy's just come in. Guy's popped you. He's popped you by £100,000. Okay, guys, so we'll take it to you, and this is on evidence over here. I'm going to download the chat. Offer acceptance. The deal is done. Okay, I'll be speaking to you afterwards. Pence. Okay. That's a cheap shot. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about it. It's critical that you manufacture time. It's the most precious thing we have. We can never get it back. You need it to generate predictable organic growth in your business. You should not be doing that after a certain period of time on your business. The system of delivery should be doing that for you. And you need time to spend more time leading rather than doing. Here's the formula. The first thing is get your positioning crystal clear. You cannot be all things to all people. To the extent that you want to be, you'll end up being nothing to everyone. All of us, when we started, had to say yes to every client that walked through the door. To any contract that offered cash in hand, we had to say yes to. But as you progress and understand your business, and as you understand what makes you special, and how that is perceived, understood, adopted, and embraced by your customers, you want to surely be working with those customers that value you more, with repeat sales and ongoing feedback. That starts to define the segment. To the extent that you can understand what problem you solve for them and what experience they want, I'm yet to find someone who doesn't spend money solving a problem. I'm yet to find someone who spends money when there's no problem to be solved. If that's crystal clear, we then build a system of delivery. All our commercial functions are built into systems to articulate and deliver on that positioning. Once we have that in play, we can then get the right people to do the right thing at the right time. We're not filling job roles and positions. We're looking for system operators. And that gives us the precious, precious gift of time. I want to run a quick calculation over here. Okay, folks, on the chat. How many years have you been in your business for? Yvonne, Jackie, Johan, Stacy, give me the years. 42, 3, 21, 21, Robin. God, and you still look 16. Lucky you, good genes. Mercedes, 2 years. Marlo, Johan, 17. Colin, 28. In this one, 5 months, Guy. Oh, you've got some way to go, mate. Jackie, 25. Tom, depending how you count it, 2 to 20. Completely identify with that. 40, Douglas. Okay. 10,000 hours to become an expert. Let's translate the hours. Which are your hours closest to you? Which are the closest hours to you? 25 from Jackie. So Jackie, we're talking 65,000 hours of work. Can you just run a quick calculation? What does an expert get paid on an hourly basis? What would you consider in your industry, if you got an expert on board and you were going to buy an hour of their time, what should you be paying them? Yvonne, in your industry, it must be a big number. Algorithms and pure math and physicists and data scientists, 2,500, 500, 500. Let's work on 500 pounds, Guy, 250 to 500. So just do this. This is a tough exercise. Take your hours and multiply it by that figure. The salary you've earned yourself and the exit value of your business should start equating to that number. You see, one of the biggest problems is that we often forget to look at ourselves as shareholders in our own businesses. And a shareholder buys that share for £50 and wants to turn it into £100 over a period of time, wants to enjoy the benefit of the dividends, and we are all of it in one shot. All of a sudden, that number starts to grow. After 10,000 hours, you should be expert at whatever it is that you do. You can be confident on your technical capacity and capability. But if you remain trying to be expert at making the product or delivering the service, as opposed to taking your time to spend it on different things, you're going to find yourself still largely in the engine room. Quick question to you all. How do you see yourselves? Who's spending 70% of their time in the engine room or 70% of their time on the bridge? Where would you see it? How do you see yourself? The best way to measure this is when you look at what you do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. How are you spending your time? Are you constantly helping your team? Are you constantly guiding your team? Are you filling in? Are you yourself making it happen? Okay, so we've got a big number, a lot of people in the engine room, 70% of our time in the engine room. We got to get out of the engine room. After 10,000 hours, positioning should be clear. The system of delivery in play. The right people doing the right thing at the right time. On board. Because you need to be on the bridge. It's on the bridge that our jobs change. The truth of the matter is that our job is to create the system, the entire system that delivers the product or service that we offer to our clients. We should spend a third of our time building culture, more time leading, less time doing, mobilizing and motivating your team to operate the systems to ensure you have that consistent organic growth. Organic growth. Not driven by you, led by you. Driven by the team operating the systems that correlates clearly and exclusively to your positioning. You should spend time widening the yawn between revenue growth and the cost of service. Very often, if you've not built a system of delivery and you simply grow, what you grow in parallel to the increase in revenue is both the increase in your operating and service costs, but the problem sets that you experienced when your business was doing £1 million as opposed to £5 million as opposed to £10 million. This is a design issue. That's what next level growth seeks to achieve. Increasing turnover with a dramatically smaller increase in operating overhead. From the bridge is where you set innovation. Innovation is essential to widen the yawn between your revenue and costs. Folks, as business owners, this is where we should be 70% of our time. And the reason it is so important is because the final destination that we should all be aiming for is a clean, profitable exit. Now, I promised there were two strategies to this. Can you guess the two strategies from the icons on the screen? Let's see, who are the visual people? Strategy one, building without a doubt. Nick, you can guess them? Pray and plan. Exactly right, Phil. Thank you. Not plan, build. Planning's nothing if it's not implemented. Luck versus deliberate effort. Johan, very nice. Spot on. If you think about it, we've been in the seat for what, 10,000, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 hours. When it comes to the point that we want to exit our businesses, very often, if we spend more than 30 to 60 hours in that process, it's a lot. And it happens quite suddenly. The decision to exit often comes along when something happens. If I look at what COVID did, there were a number of business owners out there who said, you know what, it's the last straw for me, this. I've survived so many different crises. How many different recessions, Nick, did you tell me you had been through? 4. Now we've got number 5. Doug, you've been through a few. And of a day, you just say, you know what? Stuff it. It can be that there's a medical condition that emerges somewhere. It can be that a piece of technology arises out of nowhere and creates the crisis. But suddenly to then turn around and say, I want to sell, then you're relying on hope and prayer. The fact of the matter is that you can quantify your exit value and you can systematically build the business to deliver that over a period of time. It is a mathematical formula. And the levers of growth are well known and quantified. I'll share them with you. Here's the evidence. The evidence is such that 94.6% of businesses started fail to sell. And when it comes to succession, only 27% succeed in moving from the founding generation to the succeeding generation. The numbers after that are even more dire. So let's go to the buying process. I'm going to buy your businesses. And I'm going to talk through the valuation process. What do you think is the average run rate, the multiple of your EBITDA that your industry should offer across the board? In your industry, Spiro, in your industry, what is the average multiple that people start negotiating at? Is it a 2? Is it a 1? Is it a 4? EBITDA numbers, profit before tax numbers, what is that number? What does it look like? 12 times. Ben, wow. I don't know what game you're in. I want to 10 to 25 times multiple of EBITDA, Doug. I'm in. I'm switching. I'm leaving Aurik and joining you on those values. Nick, you smiling. 2 to 3. 2 to 3 sounds more like it. That's certainly what I've seen in the marketplace over the last 20 odd years. Read the journal. I wish it worked that way. Yeah, Nick's formula is profit times depends. 8 multiple of recurring revenue, Stacy. Recurring revenue, not EBITDA. Those days, I think, are coming and going unless you have an inside sales formula. So let me share the process with you. Whatever you believe that multiple to be, the average multiple to be, let's set it for figurative purposes at 3 or 2, because that's the reality when it comes down to the nub of it. In our heads, our businesses are worth far more than the reality of what gets them eventually bought and sold. And incidentally, I'm not talking about an exeter business where when I buy you, Leo, I buy you with the view that you have to deliver 3 years of profits for me to quantify the value that you expect me to pay today. That's not a clean exit. And those deals often land up in a lot of misery. The first question I ask you is, what makes your business special? If you tell me that you've got a great product, I will find 10,000 competing products that are equally as good. If you tell me that it's your service, I'm really going to look hard to understand how you define that. Because if you're the proximate cause of your service, Johan, if it's you that does that final delivery and maintains that relationship, unless you for sale, it has no value to me. If you tell me because you serve a narrowly defined group of clients, you understand what problem you solve for them, and I test that by you quantifying the problem, and you demonstrate an understanding of the experience they want in order to continue supporting you, I bump up the multiple. So I'm going to take it from 3 to 3.5. The next question I ask you is, if you're not there, how does it get delivered? If you can show me that you are articulating that positioning, you're delivering that positioning through a system of delivery, I'm going to bump it up to a multiple of 4. The next thing I ask you is, who operates the systems? And if you can show me a team made up of the right people doing the right thing, who are succeeding and thriving in what they're doing. So I know that when you exit, Johan, that team remains behind. I bump it up further. And then I do not pay for a business that promises growth in the future unless there's evidence of growth in the past. So you need to sell when you are growing, not when you are not growing. I bump it up further. And then my final question to you is, show me, Ruti, show me that without you there, this future you've promised and demonstrated will exist. And if you can show me that you are entirely independent of the business, I'll bump it up by an entire 1 multiple. So from 3, we're sitting at a 6. It also works in reverse, folks. A 3 moves down to $1. If you don't know who you serve and what makes you special, if there are no systems that articulate the positioning, meaning that I've got to figure it all out myself, that you have a team that's chaotically organized or may stay or may go, and you have not grown prior to the day that I buy it. And in truth, I can identify clearly, Jody, that you are the cause of all that revenue and business. I'll give you $1 for what you've got, because liquidating and closing the business is far more expensive. All of these are design features in how we build a business. All of them are within our reach. I want to end off very quickly about where we are today. Today, all of us have got momentum, a team, thousands of hours, some more than others, and hopefully you want more. That's why you're here. Tomorrow, should we work together, we would absolutely ensure that you have an asset of value. You would have to have more growth and more profit, but most importantly, you would have to have more time. Because unless you can release yourself from the engine room, we ourselves can't work with you to get the business to the next level. 2 choices and an easier path. And with that, I'm going to close out for some questions, if there are any. I want to quote Nick Rickson over here, who has studied recessions and studied them and studied them and studied them. And he has evidence to show that in 6 months, businesses that invest strongly in growth now, in the midst of all this uncertainty, and in the midst of all the chaos, are the ones that will maximize the inevitable market upturn. Questions, ladies and gentlemen. I stole an extra minute of your time. Are there any? Did I cover everything? Did this enter into the deepest depths of your gray matter and resolve absolutely everything? This is a growth system. Growth doesn't just happen. It's not chaotic. It's profoundly well organized.
Pav, how long, when you're working with a client, typically before you start to see impact?
Well, the process that we follow sees impact in different parts of the business, Nick, at different times.
Okay.
So the positioning impact, clear positioning emerges after about 6 months. Absolute clarity, who you serve, what problem they have, the cost of their problem should it not be solved, and what experience they want. And I'll give you a good example. In the business-to-business space, you're serving a far more complicated client in that in any organization, I'm sorry, it's my Dell. It's my Dell quitting a nightmare again. In the business-to-business space, you're serving multiple stakeholders who make the purchase decision. We refer to that as the experiences. So it takes a bit more time to figure that out. Whereas if you're serving SMEs, smaller businesses where there's the owner-operator, it's easier. And if you're serving consumers, it's even quicker and easier.
And the whole process, how long does that take?
We work for a 24-month period, Nick, because unfolding and delivering a growth system requires a process that says, let's diagnose what's there, let's get the positioning right, let's set the goals, and then customize the system of delivery development in order to get you out of the engine room onto the bridge. And the second year is where we largely look at the next level growth opportunities. The argument being that you need to create a scalable platform before you deliver the growth for obvious reasons.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Phil, I see you calculating a lot there. Have you calculated your hours and your value? And are you where you ought to be, mate? Are you on key for your exit?
No, definitely
no. You mean not yet? That's the right answer. Not yet.
No.
Pavlo, I have a question.
Yvonne.
Hi. If looking at your positioning, it suggests that you effectively have two separate offerings that don't really gel and link together. Would you suggest that you create a separate business around the two offerings, or is there a way that you can actually proceed with the business as divisions in order to proceed with this type of approach?
Look, over time you can involve divisions, but the big question, of course, is for you to get that right, you need to release your time. And to release your time, what you need is consistent, reliable organic growth. And the way to get to consistent organic growth is to, quite honestly, build a simpler business. Because a simpler business is scalable, and a simpler business will eventually give you dominance in the segment that you're serving. And often one of my fears, and what we see a lot, so if we look at the current environment where people are deeply, deeply apprehensive about cash flow, in many instances, what happened in the early stages of COVID, everybody went and pivoted. And pivoting effectively took you away from your core strengths, your history. It took you into new markets that you were unfamiliar with. It made you say yes to more and more people as opposed to narrowing down on who you served. And what happened is a lot of businesses misunderstood how their current customer problem sets had changed as a result of COVID, and they started to find themselves largely irrelevant about 3 to 4 months in. I think in a very, very, very competitive world, which we all exist in, narrowing down and dominating a segment in terms of problems and experience consistently drives more value. It also makes for an easier asset establishment. In other words, a business that's easier to exit. Over time, we certainly do see businesses move into divisions. So if I look at that bakery, that industrial bakery, they were involved in 4 different areas. They had 4 different divisions doing the £5 million turnover. For them to get to the £50 million, yes, it took 10 years, relatively short time. The individual was 54, 55 when he joined us at Aurik. But he got there by focusing and honing in on one segment only, one division only. He discarded the others because the others created the complexity that constantly pulled him into the engine room.
Okay.
Fantastic, folks. I've taken up more time than I should have. I'm officially 8 minutes over. We started 2 minutes late. I hope you found it valuable. Thank you very much for spending time and being with us. And we hope to see you on the other side.